Okay, so if you're just trying to get started with AI coding tools like using Anthropic's Claude to write code, it can be, well, a total mess. You're trying to learn, but it feels like half the advice you find online is already completely out of date, pushing these weird workflows that just don't make sense anymore. It's super frustrating, right? So, in this explainer, we're going to completely cut through all that noise, all that BS. We're going to focus on what actually works, what actually matters right now to get you from a simple idea all the way to a live application, step by step. All right, let's dive in. We're going to take a 5-part journey together. First, we'll get your workspace set up for success. Then, we'll master the art of the perfect prompt. After that, we'll supercharge Claude with something called skills, tune its performance like a pro, and finally take our creation and put it live on the internet. And we're going to do all of this by building a real project, a handy little Kanban board for content creators. First things first, where do you actually, work with Claude? You've got a few options, and honestly, picking the right workspace from the very beginning is going to make everything that follows so much easier. So you're looking at a spectrum of control here. On one side, you have the simpler, more streamlined apps. They're easy to use, but you give up some control. On the other end, you have the terminal, or an IDE, which gives you way more power and a direct look at what Claude is doing under the hood. For this, we're going to land right in the middle, using the terminal inside a free tool called VS Code. It really gives us the best of both worlds, a powerful command line and a file explorer, so we can see our project come to life right before our eyes. Now, this is crucial when you first start, understanding permissions. The default setting is, well, it's slow. It asks you for permission for every single little file change. Then you have the total opposite, bypass permissions, which is super fast but gives Claude full keys to the kingdom, which can be a little scary. For beginners, the absolute sweet spot is right in the middle, except edits on. This lets Claude make file changes freely, but still asks for your OK before it runs any major commands on your computer. It's the perfect balance of safety and speed. All right, let's get into what is probably the single most important skill you can learn for any of this stuff: prompting. It's simple, really. The quality of what you get out is directly tied to the quality of what you put in. A great prompt is everything. So a perfect prompt really has 4 key ingredients. First, state the goal, and I mean the why, not just the what. Instead of saying, build a Kanban board, you'd say, build a board to help me organize my video ideas from script to upload. See the difference? Second, give it examples. A screenshot of a tool you like Trello, is perfect. Third, ask open-ended questions. Get it to think. And fourth, and this is a big one, always use plan mode. This forces Claude to stop, think, and ask you questions before it writes a single line of code. And this right here, this is an absolute game changer. Ask Claude to think like an expert in whatever you're doing. Look, AI lets us jump into fields where we have zero experience, but that means we don't know what we don't know. By asking something like, what am I missing? Or what would an expert be asking right now? You're actually getting Claude to prompt you. It fills in those knowledge gaps and leads to a way better outcome. So after we follow our own formula, Claude builds our first version of the Kanban board. And it works. It's functional, for sure. But let's be honest, it's really boring to look at. This is a classic example of the AI taste problem, and it's a super common thing to see on a first pass. So how do we fix that? How do we give Claude better taste, especially with something like front-end design where AI can be pretty weak? The answer is a really cool feature called skills. Now, skill might sound kind of complicated, but it's not. It's really just a text prompt. Think of it like a little cheat sheet or a pre-written set of instructions that you give Claude to teach it how to do a very specific thing in a very specific way. For our design problem, we can use a skill that's been made just for improving front-end design. And wow, this slide just says it all, right? On the left, you've got that generic, kind of boring AI slop that we get by default. Then on the right, after running the exact same prompt, but with the front-end design skill turned on, you get something that looks way more polished, way more professional. It's a total night and day difference, and all we did was activate a simple text prompt. And here it is, our Kanban board totally transformed. We just ran the prompt again, but this time with that front-end design skill. And we described a new look. A dark mode, a nice textured background, and these really cool glass morphism effects on the cards. That's what gives them that slick, semi-transparent, frosted glass look. I mean, come on, look at that. It's so much better than what we started with. Okay, our app is looking great, but how do we keep getting this level of quality, especially as our project gets bigger and more complicated? Well, that's where performance tuning comes in. And really, it all boils down to managing Claude's memory. The big concept you need to know here is something called context rot. Just think of Claude's context window as its short-term memory. It holds all the information for your conversation in these little units called tokens. Now, it has a huge memory budget, 1 million tokens. But as that budget gets used up, its performance actually starts to get worse. The more you cram into its memory, the sloppier the results can become.
And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. This data comes straight from Anthropic. It shows that when the model is only using about a quarter of its memory, its performance is at a solid 92%. But when you max it out at a million tokens, that performance drops all the way to 78%. It's a pretty clear decline. So the takeaway is simple. If you don't need all that context, don't use it.
So what's the fix? It's actually incredibly simple. Just use the /clear command and use it often. This command totally wipes Claude's short-term memory and gives it a fresh start. And don't worry, this will not delete your project files or anything like that. Claude just rereads them to get back up to speed, which means you're always getting its absolute best performance.
All right, we've built our app, we've made it look great, we've fine-tuned it. Now, for the most exciting part, taking it from our computer and putting it live on the internet so literally anyone can use it. Now, deployment sounds like a scary technical word, but it's really just a simple two-step process. First, we use a command to push our code to GitHub. Think of this like creating a permanent save point for your project that lives in the cloud. Step 2, we use a fantastic free service called Vercel. We just tell Vercel, hey, go grab my project from that GitHub link, and it literally does all the hard work for us. And just like that, you have a live URL. Your Kanban board is officially on the internet. And here's the really powerful part. This whole workflow is now automated. Anytime you make changes to your project and push them back up to GitHub, Vercel sees them instantly and updates your live website automatically. No extra steps. So let's do a super quick recap of everything we just covered. We figured out how to set up the perfect environment. We learned that the 4-part formula for crafting a perfect prompt. We used skills to fix AI's taste problem. We saw how to manage the context window with /clear for peak performance. And finally, we deployed our app to the live web in just 2 simple steps. So there you have it. You now have the fundamental playbook to go from a simple idea that's just rattling around in your head to a real live application that anyone in the world can visit. The only real question left is, what are you going to build next?